Om Namah Pranavartaya, Shuddha Jnanaika Murtaye, Nirmalaya Prasantaya, Dakshina Murtaye Namaha, Ishvaro Gururatmeti, Murti Bheda Vibhagine, Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya, Dakshina Murtaye Namaha, Arunagirimupetam, Sachidananda Murtim, Ramana Iti Prithivyam Vishrutam Jnanasuryam, Gahana Hridaya Vidyam, Leelaya Bodhayantam, Satatamaham Ameyam, Sadgurum Samsmarami, Arunachala Shirorbhuta, Sampradaya Pravartakam, Karunarnavamidhe, Tam Ramanakyamaham Maha. My humble pranams and Guru Poornima greetings to you all. Today is a very significant day for all aspirants in the spiritual path. We have a very rich spiritual heritage dating back to thousands of years. And this heritage has been preserved and passed down the line by a successive line of gurus, preceptors. We all owe our indebtedness to these great people who have shown us the path towards the light. The measure of our spiritual heritage, the immense treasure that we have in Sanatana Dharmam, is exemplified by a small incident that I happened to hear from Swami Sarvapriyananda in one of his talks. He was attending a conference on consciousness, and a lot of people were invited, religious leaders, spiritual guides, neuroscientists, neurosurgeons, and scientists working on cognitive technologies, cognitive sciences, and so on. So the Swamiji gave a lecture, and at the end of the lecture, he says, a very popular, a very renowned neurosurgeon, an American, approached him. I don't remember his name now. Approached Swamiji and appreciated his talk, and also said, it is amazing that so far back, so much of knowledge has been gathered on such a complex subject like consciousness. And then it seems, he said, we have all been doing it wrong in the sense, we are dividing the progress of our human evolution in terms of before Christ and after Christ and so on. Actually, it will be better to do it as before the Upanishads and after the Upanishads. Such a remarkable statement made by him, coming from a Westerner, and that to a scientist, it holds a lot of value. Guru Poornima is also celebrated as Vyasa Poornima, Veda Vyasa. We, in our Sanatana Dharmam, consider Vyasa as the most important person who has done an enormous task for our heritage, spiritual heritage. Vyasa is not his actual name. Krishna Dvaipayana was his name. Krishna actually the name. And because he was born in an island, a Dvipa, he was called as Dvaipayana. He had other names like Badarayana and so on. He was given the name Vyasa because the vast Vedas, they were all one at one point in time. All the Samhitas, the Brahmanas, the Aranyakas, the Upanishads, later on the Agamas, and so on. A very vast knowledge, they were all one, undivided. And I believe he thought at one point in time that future generations may not be able to really gather all this information and then keep it in their memory, because the mind is going to become weaker and weaker with the progress of humanity. So he thought it is better that we divide it into a number of sections, and at least one or two sections people can learn and then keep it in their memory. It seems when he did this division, there were 1,180 branches of the Vedas. Shakas, they called it as. And today what we have is only 10. That much of knowledge has been lost, could not be preserved. But at least to this extent, it has been preserved because of efforts like Veda Vyasas. So he took out the prayer-related mantras, made it into Rig Veda. And all those instructions for performing sacrifices, rituals, and so on, he called it as Yajurveda. And all those musical related mantras, he called it as Samaveda, put it in under the section of Samaveda. And those mantras which sought protection from enemies and other evil forces, he put them together and called it as Atharvana Veda. So these are the 4 Vedas. This itself is a great task, but he did not stop with that. Veda Vyasa thought that Vedas are so complex and so difficult for ordinary people to understand. We should convey the essence of the Vedas in an easily understandable format. And so he mixed up stories with all these supreme truths, because we are all interested in listening to stories, and whatever we convey through the stories sticks in our mind also. That's how these 18 Puranas came. Some of the Puranas are so long. Skanda Puranam, for example, I believe it has got 4 lakh granthas, one Puranam alone. And he composed 18 of these Puranas. And of course, Mahabharatam, one of the longest of epics. Bhagavad Gita and other great works are also embedded in Mahabharatam. It is known as the 5th Veda. And to cap it all, the peak of his performance came in a very short work, which is known as the Brahma Sutras. If the Vedas can be imagined as a tree, and the Upanishads are imagined as flowers in the tree, the string that bound them all together is the Brahma Sutram. Actually, there is a pun on this word Sutram. Sutram also means, it means a string, and also it also means it's an aphorism. It is a formula-like thing. It's short sentences. Much of the essence of Upanishads were put in that. There are about 555 sutras in Brahma Sutra. The interesting thing is all the streams of thought, whether it is Advaitam, Visishtadvaitam, Dvaitam, or the Shaiva Siddhantam by Sri Kantacharya, and the Krishna Siddhantam by Vallabhacharya. These names are important. At least we should hear these names. And whenever we hear these names, we should put a namaskaram in our minds to these great people, Vallabhacharya, Sri Kantacharya. All these 5 different streams of philosophical thinking, they all trace their basic philosophy to Veda Vyasas, Brahma Sutras. All of them have written bhashyas. They have interpreted his sutras in their own way. There are differences, but then there is also this binding sutra, the one that binds them all together harmoniously. And Veda Vyasa provided it through the Brahma Sutras. Adi Shankara's Brahma Sutra Bhashyam is considered to be one of the classical intellectual works ever done by anybody. So this is the importance of Veda Vyasa. That is why we call Guru Poornima as Vyasa Poornima. Today, on a Poornima day, all the Shankaracharyas and all the Matatipatis would be performing Vyasa Puja. And this is the beginning of Chaturmasyam, which is the beginning of the monsoon session, monsoon period in India. Because in Chaturmasyam, it's a special vratam. The sannyasis do not move around during that time. They stay in one place and spread the knowledge around, and they do the puja to Vyasa. But the Guru parampara itself starts with divine manifestations. There are many Guru Paramparas. I will talk about the Advaita Guru Parampara and the Acharyas who came on the scene and provided with a great amount of knowledge to us. The Guru Parampara Stuti for the Advaita Parampara is, strangely, it begins with Vishnu Narayanam Padma Bhuvam Vasishtam Shaktim Cha Tatputra Parasharam Cha Vyasam Shukam. This, whatever I said so far, they're all not only Guru Sishya, but also father son. The knowledge propagated in that manner, Narayana, and his son is Brahma, Chaturmukha Brahma, Padma Bhuvam. His son is Vasishta. Vasishta must have lived for a very long time because, he spent a lot of years, number of years. The greatest contribution of Vasishta is Yoga Vasishtam. Bhagavan used to refer to Yoga Vasishtam because it's one of the supreme of Advaita Granthas. Vasishta's son, Shakti, his son Parashara, and Parashara's son is Vyasa. And I talked about all the great compositions of Vyasa. Vyasa's son is Shuka Brahmam. He was a Jivan Mukta right from childhood. When someone asked Bhagavan, has there been anyone like you? Because you are saying that you do not belong to any ashramam, you do not belong to any caste. Bhagavan answered that he did not belong to any of the ashrams. He says it is Ativarana ashramam. Is there any example for this? Was the question. And then he gave the example of Shuka Brahma Rishi. He was like Bhagavan. The very beginning of Bhagavatam, there is a very interesting shloka which talks about Shuka and Vyasa. Shuka was staying with Vyasa, his father, till his 10th year or so. And one day he told his father, I'm not going to be with you any longer. I'm going to be a wandering monk. I'm going to wander around because my mind is not, into this worldly life. So I believe he started walking out. And Shuka came running after him. He was not able to bear the separation. So he came running out and he saw the son going at a distance and he called out to him, oh my son, oh my son. Putreti tanmayataya taravo bhineduhu tam sarvabhuta hridayam muni manatosmi. This is the second sentence. First sentence is tam pravrajantam anupetam upeta krityam Dvaipayano virahakatara ajuhava. Viraham is the pain of separation. Ajuhava, he called out to his son, one who wanted to wander around. Putra, my son, when he called out, I believe the entire nature responded to him. The trees responded, here I am. The streams, they responded. The flowers, the birds, everything, because Sarvabhuta Hridayam, he was one with the nature, and the nature was one in him. So this is a beautiful sentence by which he immediately tells you the state of Shuka Brahma Rishi, that he was one with the nature, just as Bhagavan was. Tam Sarvabhuta Hridayam Munimanatosmi. Like that, Bhagavatam begins. Bhagavata Puranam begins. So that is Shuka Brahma Rishi, and it is his storytelling that we see in Srimad Bhagavatam. Vyasa wrote it, but Shuka Brahma Rishi told these stories to Parikshit, and Srimad Bhagavatam is both a Bhakti Grantham as well as Advaita Grantham. They're all merged together so beautifully. After this starts the Acharya Parampara. Vyasam Shukam Gaudapadam. The Acharya, Gaudapada Acharya, he was both a grammarian, he learned grammar from Patanjali himself. Panini's Bhashyam was given by Patanjali. From Patanjali, Gaudapada learned Sanskrit grammar. But of course, this is a big story. He also became a great Acharya. And the contribution that Gaudapadacharya has made, all of us know. Mandukya Upanishad, the commentary on Mandukya Upanishad was given by Gaudapadacharya. Again, one of the most classical works, seminal work in Advaita. This Karika is held in such high esteem by everybody, all the regions, in fact, Buddhists also. Mandukya Upanishad itself is the shortest of Upanishads, just 16 mantras, but very profound in the message that it conveyed. After Gaudapadacharya, you find mention of Ajatavadam in Mandukya Karika, which is what Bhagavan used to profess. That's what Muruganar says. After Gaudapadacharya came Govinda Yogindram, says. His Sishya was Govinda Bhagavatpada. Govinda Bhagavatpada was a Kashmiri Brahmin in his Purvashramam. He was known as Chandra Sharma. He learnt grammar from Gaudapadacharya at one stage. He became a Grihastha. As I said, this is a big story. And that itself will take an entire session. He became a Grihastha. And then he came back to Sannyasa Ashramam. And he was in the region, in the banks of Narmada, meditating. And then he approached Gaudapadacharya, who was in Kashi at that time. He learnt Advaitam, came back, and he was in the Narmada cave. And Govinda Padacharya's Sishya is Adi Shankara. They say Shankara himself came as Adi Shankara. It's an interesting slokam in the biography of Adi Shankara written by one Ananda Yogi. He says, Dakshinamurti was sitting and teaching in silence to all the 4 disciples. Ages passed. Suddenly he decided, enough of this maunam, because I now need to take up speech also. I have to teach orally people. Then only this knowledge will go. How many people can understand maunam? Very few. So he says, Muktva maunam, Vata vitapinor mulato nishpatanti, Shambhor murtihi, Charati bhuvane, Shankaracharya rupa. That's a slokam. He got up from the base of the banyan tree under which he was sitting, and he decided, now I should walk around and I should speak and I should instruct people orally, and he became Shankaracharya. That's how the manifestation took place. It's a beautiful thing. He says, Muktva Maunam. He gave Mukti to Maunam. In a very humorous manner, he says, he gave Mukti to Maunam and he started walking several times in this country in those days. Charati Bhuvane, in present tense, even today, he is roaming around in the form of all these gurus. This is what it means. At the age of 10, Adi Shankara took the permission of his mother. Even that was a drama. His mother did not give permission because she was a widow. He was the only support for her. So when Adi Shankara wanted to become a monk, she said, no, it is not possible. And then it is also a rule that unless the mother gives you permission, don't take sannyasa. So he waited for his mother's permission, but it was not forthcoming. So one day there was a drama. He was taking bath and mother was also there. She was standing on the banks of the river. And a crocodile came and caught hold of Shankara's feet. And then he started struggling to extricate himself from the jaws of the crocodile. The mother was watching all these things. And Shankara told her, there is a method by which I can get out of this particular crisis now. It is said that if you take sannyasa, it is another life. It is actually counted as another life. So by taking sannyasa, it is equivalent to a death for me here. So please give me permission to take sannyasa. So mother did not have any other option but to give him the permission, because at least he will live. So she said, okay. So immediately he was able to, come out of the grip of the crocodile. This 10-year-old boy walked all the way, all alone, to his guru, the Narmada Tiram. Even today, there is a cave there, which is well preserved now. I believe they found out the cave where Shankara met Govinda Bhagavad Pada for the first time. This cave is just below the Omkareshwara temple in Madhya Pradesh today. So he met him there. And when Govinda Pada, when the meeting took place, I believe he was deeply absorbed. And he saw a boy standing in front of him. When he opened his eyes, so bright, so brilliant, he knew he is my Shishya. He taught him for 2 years. That's what it goes. The story goes. Taught him for 2 years. He did not have anything to learn, but there was a formality he had to go through. So he took on a guru, and then he learned all these things. Advaita Shastram from Govinda Bhagavad Pada. Govinda Bhagavad Pada told him, I am sitting in a cave, but you are not destined to do so. Go to Kashi. Kashi is the place where all the scholars gather all the time. Not only scholars from our religion, but various other religions also. You teach them these great truths. Go to Kashi. That's how the journey begins. And we know he went up and down several times. And what is it that he did not achieve? Bhashyam for Upanishads. Bhashyam for Brahma Sutra. Of course, he wrote the Bhashyam for Vishnu Sahasranamam also. That was the first thing that he wrote. And so many, hymns in praise of so many gods. So much in such a short life. And his disciple, I am cutting short all these stories. He took on 4 disciples. Shri Shankaracharyam Atasya Padmapadam Hastamalakam Chasishyam Tam Totakam Vartikakaram Anyan. There are 4 Sishyas: Padmapada, Hastamalaka, Totakacharya, and finally Vartikam, Vartikakara. Actually, it refers to Sureshwaracharya, who is Mandana Mishra, because he wrote a Vartikam on Shankara's Bhashyam. Vartikam is also a commentary of sorts. So because of he wrote that, Mandana Mishra was called as, Sureshwaracharya was called as Vartikakara. He also wrote another great Grantham known as Naishkarmya Siddhi. I am mentioning all this because I think we should at least hear these names. Naishkarmya Siddhi is one of the greatest of Prakarana Granthas that Mandana Mishra, Sureshwaracharya wrote. This Guru Shishya Parampara, up to this, the shloka goes and then stops. Adi Shankara established 4 mutts in all parts of the country. And they say that in the Kanchipuram mutt, he finally reached, and he reached his final nirvanam also. That's what the story goes about Shankaracharya. But there were other great Advaita gurus. It's a whole line, hundreds of them. I'll just pick out some of the brightest of stars in this Advaitic sky. 200 years after Sureshwaracharya was a great Advaitin by name Vachaspati Mishra. But he is not known so much for his name. He is known for the book that he wrote. Because he spent his entire lifetime, he was married, but he started writing this commentary on Shankara Bhashyam with a new angle, And he spent his entire lifetime keeping on writing, revising, contemplating on what he wrote. And he went on revising it again and again. Entire lifetime was spent. The story goes that one day his book was finished, and then his mind was full of relief. Whatever he wanted to do, he has finished it. And he saw an old lady coming to him and giving him his food. Who is this old lady, he thought. And with a shock, he realized that she was none other than his own wife. He had neglected her all his lifetime. And he was immersed in his work, and he just took her presence for granted. And this lady, without any complaint, keeping a very low profile, wanted her husband to finish his job. That was her only goal. He felt very bad about what he has done to his wife. She must have had her own desires. She must have wanted children. But now they are past the prime. So he felt very bad about what he did, the kind of neglect that he showed to his wife. So he decided to do one thing to atone for this mistake. And then he says, I will name my book after you. So this book is known as Bhamati, which is the name of his wife. So Bhamati is better known than the name Vachaspati Mishra. Bhamati started a new school of thought in Advaita Vedanta. New school in the sense, a new method of presentation, or new ideas of presentation. So this is called as the Bhamati school. There was another school of thought, and that was started by another Advaitin who came just after Vachaspati Mishra. His name is Prakash Atman. Prakash Atman started a school of thought in Advaita, which is called as the Vivarana school. Muruganar mentions about Vaivartavadam and other things in his Guru Vachaka Kovai. Vivarana school and Bhamati school. Not much of a difference. Basic things, everything is the same. Only thing is the difference is, what is the nature of Maya? Where is Maya? Is it part of Brahman, or is it a separate entity? That is the difference. So one school held that it is part of Brahman. Other school held that it cannot be. Perfect knowledge cannot accommodate perfect ignorance, illusion. So how can Brahman accommodate Maya as part of him? That is one argument. The other argument is, if Brahman is one and there is no two, then Maya is also part of him. There is the other thought, other school of thought. Anyway, there's not much of a difference. Bhagavan sidesteps this very cleverly. Whenever questions are asked about this, his way of sidestepping the whole thing is, who is it that is having ignorance? Who is under delusion? You find out that. When you find that answer to that, you will not have any doubts about anything else, or we waste time about all these things. What he used to say. After Prakash Atman, the brightest star that came on the scene about 200 years later, this name all of us would have heard, Vidyaranya Swami. He is better known for establishing the Vijayanagara Samrajyam to stop the spread of the Mughal Empire. He assisted two shepherds to form a great empire. But his contribution to Advaita Vedantam is through his book known as Panchadashi. It's a seminal work. Bhagavan used to quote from Panchadashi, 15 chapters, and that's why it is called as Panchadashi. I mentioned about Panchapadika that was written by Padmapada. This is Panchadashi by Vidyaranya Swami. At about the same time, in the region of Bengal, there was another great Advaitin by name Madhusudana Saraswati. He was a great Krishna Bhakta. Perfection of knowledge coupled with ecstasy of devotion. That is what describes Madhusudana Saraswati. He wrote a great book known as Advaita Siddhi. These are all great, important works which contributed in some form or the other in shaping the Advaita philosophy. After Madhusudana Saraswati, the greatest star that comes to our minds is Appaya Dikshitar in Tamil Nadu, in fact in Tiruvannamalai district. Appaya Dikshitar, in those days he was called as Apara Shankara, because as many books as that Shankara composed, so many did Appaya Dikshitar also do. He was a great Shiva Bhakta, just like Madhusudana Saraswati being a Krishna Bhakta, he was a great Shiva Bhakta. but he harmonized all the various, cults prevailing in those days. And his contribution was a great book known as Parimalam. And after Appaya Dikshita, great Advaitin by name Sadashiva Brahmendra lived. Sadashiva Brahmendra's name, all Tamilians would know. Because of the Krithis that he composed. He was a Vaggeyakara. He was a music composer, in addition to being a great Advaitin. The book that he wrote was Atma Vidya Vilasam. This Atma Vidya Vilasam is popularized by the Sringeri Mutt. In fact, one can find, the Atma Vidya Vilasam written on all the walls of the Sringeri Mutt. Sadashiva Brahmendra's Krithis are very well known. Pibare Ramarasam, Bhajare Gopalam, Manasa Sancharare, and so on. Any number of Krithis. 200 years after Sadashiva Brahmendra, the greatest of gurus appeared on the scene. In the 19th century, Ramana Maharshi. A very unique guru, a matchless guru. Nobody can equal you, says Kavyakanta. Not because he is his guru, not because of the Vishwasam towards the guru, but because of the manner of his realization. He did not have any instruction with anybody. He was not religiously oriented. He did not have any particular interest about any of the things that are normally followed in a middle-class Brahmin family. But in a matter of few minutes, a school-going boy, became a Jivan Mukta. This is something unparalleled. It is talked about in the Upanishads that in a trice one can get moksham. It's possible to do that because it is always with you. So what's the problem? It's always with you, so there's no problem in getting it at any time. But it is so very difficult because of this Maya that obstructs this view. But this boy achieved that. And what is more miraculous is the fact that he did not leave that state even for a second afterwards. He continued to be established in that state till his physical passing away. Avichyuta Nija Prajnaha, says Vishwanatha Swami in the Ashtotram. Avichyuta Nija Prajnaha, the Nija Prajna, that consciousness, that complete, that perfect consciousness never left him even for a second. Avichyuta means like Achyuta. Avichyuta is not falling down from that state. Achyuta is somebody who maintains a particular state. Avichyuta Nija Prajnaha, Naisargika Mahatapaha, says Vishwanath Swami. He taught in silence, just like his father, Dakshinamurti. T.M.P. Mahadevan writes about it. He says, for his times, what Dakshinamurti did was correct because people were there having the ability to understand through silence everything. But Adi Shankara had to come at some time and he incessantly talked. He incessantly argued with everybody. Went up and down, establishing his Advaita Vedantam. That was required for his times. But during Bhagavan's time, he also taught in silence. And when required, he also answered. This is a great blessing. Teaching in silence is what is recommended. Because they say that Advaitam, the very activity of teaching somebody brings Advaitam. There is a guru, there is a Shishya. No, Advaitam can be best taught by staying in that state, not coming out of that state, and not seeing anybody other than himself. There is no Shishya for me, he used to say. I am nobody's guru. And for me, everybody is a jnani. There is no ajnani in my sight. That's what Bhagavan used to say. So he taught in that manner. He also answered questions for our sake. He wrote when people asked him to write. Prompted by somebody, he wrote something. Otherwise, he used to say, who used to teach whom? That was the stature. And what all he experienced, he wrote. And people found that what he wrote was in perfect conformity with what was already mentioned in the Upanishads. So much so that Muruganar used to say, we can very safely believe in the Upanishads because they say the same thing that our Bhagavan says, not the other way around. We can safely believe in the Upanishads, he used to say. That was the stature of this Guru. As we go along, we will listen to more stories of Bhagavan and his teachings. So I just thought that I would, in a brief manner, summarize the Guru parampara. So I will start Devi Kalottaram. Some time is there. We saw the last session, we studied 2 slokas where Parvati Devi appeals to Shiva, saying that for the benefit of mankind, please teach us the Jnanacharam. And Ishvara immediately replies, yes, I will do that immediately. I will tell you. Through which whole humanity can become muktas. This is what he said in the first 2 verses. The 3rd verse, Yesham bodho na sanjato kalajnanat varanane na tesham jayate bodha shastra koti sathairapi, he says. Bhagavan, translation, beautiful translation. Jnanam dan yavarkum nanmuhattoi ikkalagnanatal ullin anugado nanmuhattoi varanane. O damsel, a beautiful countenance. It's what Ishvara addresses Parvati Devi as Nanmuhattoi. Jnanam dan yavarkum ikkalagnanatal ullin anugado. Those who are desirous of getting jnanam, if after reading this jnanachara vichara patalam, if they cannot get the jnanam, even after reading millions of shastras, they will not be able to get it. What he is trying to convey is that take this one book and follow this book completely. Whatever is required is crystallized into this. It's a distilled kind of a upadesham that is being presented here. If you cannot get it from this one book, even if you read millions of books, you will not be able to read. You will not be able to get it. Shastra koti satairapi. The Shastra Vasana is the most difficult Vasana to get over. People who have this tendency to read one book and then another book and another book and then keep on reading. It's not going to really benefit anybody. Adi Shankara says, Shabdajalam Maharanyam Chitta Brahmana Karanam in Viveka Chudamani. What is the use? These are all Shabda Jalam. These are all magic of all the sounds. Maharanyam, it's a big forest. Once you enter into that, you will lose your way. You will not be able to come out of it. So people keep on reading and reading and reading, but they do not really, take it in, practice it. Bhagavan used to say, what is the point in reading all these shastras? It seems there was a big discussion going on once in the meditation hall, and sub-registrar Narayana Iyer was there. A few pandits had come, and then they had a very vigorous, engaged Bhagavan in a very vigorous discussion. And they were discussing so many things. Bhagavan was answering, they were saying, quoting, Sanskrit verses. Bhagavan was quoting Sanskrit verses. Sub-registrar Narayana Iyer became quite dejected. What is it that I have learned? I have not, so much is there, I have not learned anything at all. So he was very frustrated. And these Brahmins, these Pandits, they left. And Bhagavan looked at Narayana Iyer. Immediately he understood what was going on in Narayana Iyer's mind. Oh, what? Are you feeling sad that you do not know all these things? They are all just husk, he said. They're all just husk. The Purnam is being hidden by all these things. What is inside, what is significant is only that. It's a very simple thing. For that, so much of Shastras are there. All these are not really required for you. And it seems he asked him, do you shave every day? He said, yes, I shave. So for shaving, you have to look at the mirror. Yes. Will you shave the mirror or shave yourself? The Shastras are like this mirror. They point to you the path. But you have to do the journey yourself. You have got to undertake the journey within you. It must be experiential, and don't make this knowledge as like any other knowledge. The other knowledge is known as aparavidya. This knowledge is known as the paravidya. This paravidya is not learned from the Vedas or the Shastras. They are there as pointers. So here Ishvara says the same thing. Shastra koti shatairapi. Even if you read millions of Shastras, you will not be able to get it if you miss out on this, the basic thing. So Ishvara says, na tesham jayate bodha. That bodham, that the bodham, nirvishaya bodham. Nirvishaya bodham is what is meant by objectless, contentless consciousness. Consciousness, if you imagine that consciousness to be a vessel, all the objects are carried by that vessel of consciousness. Everything, even our thoughts, our opinions, our feelings, they're also objects. And the sensations that we receive through the body, the indriyas, the senses, and all the objects, external objects, which will grab your mind and take your mind into them. All these things are just objects. They're all contained within that vessel called consciousness. So if these Vishayas are all taken out, all these objects are emptied out, then what remains is only that consciousness. That consciousness is a bodha that Ishvara is talking about. Bhagavan says, Vana kanakila kodinul katralum annorku unarvu udiyadu endre unarvu. You will not be able to get it. What you will not be able to get it? This kala jnanam. Kala jnanam is the jnanam that transcends kalam. Kalottara jnanam. When we say kalam, it automatically means space also. Time and space are twins. They come together. Science also says the same thing. You cannot have one without the other. So you are transcending time and space simultaneously. And that is Kalottara Jnanam. You are beyond time. You are beyond space. You are beyond anything that can be confined into a space. So this Nirvishaya Bodham, this Nirvishaya Chaitanyam. In one of the kritis of Dikshitar, he says, Nirvisesha Chaitanya Rupini. Nirvisesham, Nirvishayam. Contentless consciousness. Consciousness emptied of all thoughts, all objects. That consciousness is what is being presented to you now. How to reach that consciousness. So this you can learn by turning inwards and looking within and reading yourself rather than reading countless, endless Shastras. They are required to some extent to show you the way. But if you are going to get engrossed in them, you will not be able to come out of it. That's why Adi Shankara says, the Shastra Vasana is the greatest Vasana, is the most difficult Vasana to get rid of. So don't get into that, he says. Na tesham jayate bodaha Shastra koti shatairapi, he says. Nayamatma pravachanena labhyaha na medhaya na bahuna shrutena, says the Upanishad. Ayam Atma, this Atma, pravachanena na labhyaha. Through pravachanam, like the one that I am giving now, you are not going to get it. Nor am I going to get it. It's not the way. It's required at one level, just as a sharing of knowledge, exchange of information. But what is to be done is to go within and read ourselves. Ayamatma pravachanena labhyaha na medhaya na bahuna shrutena. This is what it is. by reading and listening to so many of these scriptures, you are not going to get it, says Ishvara. The fourth verse, we'll have time for this verse, I think. Atohi nirbhayo vidvan nishanko vigata spriha jnanotsaha paro bhuyat shraddhatano nirakulaha. Adanale, atohi, adanale, nirbhayanai, ayam enal indri, without any shanka, edanilume ichaiyalanai, without any kind of a desire, idayatil, in the heart, nat shraddhayodu. The operative word in this verse is shraddha. Nat shraddhayodu, nirakulanai, without any anxiety, without any confusion, that is nirakulam. Jnanatil urchahamullanaai utru. Engage in this with full enthusiasm. Have an ardent approach to this particular. That urchaham is very important, that enthusiasm is very important in such a thing. If you're going to get bored, it's not going to work. But the operative word here, as I said, is shraddha. Shraddha is faith. Faith in Guru's words, faith in the scriptures, coupled with sincere commitment. Shraddhavan labhate jnanam, says Bhagavad Gita. The fourth chapter, Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yogam. Lord Krishna says, Shraddhavan, one who has commitment, one who has faith, he will get jnanam. Tatparaha samyatendriyaha jnanam labdhva param shantim achirena adhigacchati. Jnanam labdhva param shantim. The result of jnanam is peace. People think that a jnani is somebody who is, bubbling with, jumping up and down with some thrill within. Then Devaraja Mudaliar asked Bhagavan once, Bhagavan, what is this bliss that you are talking about? What is it like? Is it like eating badam halwa continuously? He had a way of asking questions to Bhagavan. Is it like eating halwa all the time? Halwa is an Indian sweet. Is it like eating halwa all the time? So Bhagavan laughed and said, no. It is actually a neutral state. Imagine, he's saying that it is a neutral state. It's not a state of where there are a lot of thrills going on. It is parama shanti. Everything has completely fused out inside you, and that what remains there, that the one that is, that the waveless ocean, they say, that kind of a tranquility, that is the result of jnanam. So, shantam, that purna shantam is the mark of a jnani. Yasmin sthito na dukkena guruna api vichalyate, says Lord Krishna in some other place. In that state, the mightiest of tragedies also will not shake you up. Na vichalyate. Guruna api, guru, here guru means mighty. Even great tragedies will not shake you up. That kind of a shanti is the result, and that is what you are going to aim at. Atohi nirbhayo, don't have any fear. Because once you start this, when the personality starts dissolving a little bit, you become afraid. Because we are so used to having this person around us, so used to having this mind chattering all the time, we are afraid of losing this. It is a free fall. And we resist that. Our initial reaction is to resist this kind of a free fall. We want some proper, something to hold on to. But this Grantham is going to tell you, don't hold on to anything at all. So he says, don't be afraid, because this will take you very safely to that. This is a direct path. There is only one object, and because of that, there will not be any bhayam at all for you. So it will be don't be fearless. Don't be worried about anything. Nirbhayo, Vidwan, Nishanko, without any doubts. Vigata Sprihaha, without getting attached to anything. Plunge into this. Jnanotsaha paro bhuyat. Shraddhadano nirakulaha. Leave all your confusion behind. Show complete commitment to this. Yo yat shraddha sayeva saha, says another line in Bhagavad Gita. Shraddha is the measure of a man. This commitment is the measure of a man. So much of commitment and as much of value. Man's value is the commitment that he shows, not only to this spiritual path, to anything in life. Commitment makes the difference between two people who have all the same things. One man is able to achieve something because of the commitment, the determination, the faith that he has in himself and the goal that he wants to go to. So, Shraddha is the one that he has got to. So, with this, he begins Devi Kalottaram. There are some more qualities also he is going to describe in the other things, and then he is going to plunge into the actual Jnana Acharam, the practice of Jnana. So, with this, I will conclude today's lecture. Thank you.